Hello, everyone. My name is Jan Alenfall. I'm the CEO of Follicum, and we are based in Lund. And this is the usual disclaimer. The team is very small. We are a virtual company, and we have only 4 employees at the moment. So my background is 25 years in pharmaceutical industry, early stage, clinical stage projects, mostly been working with peptides. And then we have Gunnar Gårdemyr. He has 35 years experience in pharmaceutical development, mostly in mergers, acquisitions, and business development in big companies, also internationally. And then Maria Ekblad, she has about 20 years of pharmaceutical early stage development, mostly preclinical, and before the project goes into man. And the last person is Susanna Schele. She has 12 years experience from Novo Nordisk, and we recruited her about a year ago, where she has been working with their GLP-1 analogs. So we are a fairly good team, but we outsource most of our work to international key contract research organizations or working with academic groups. The company has 2 projects. One, advanced stage in hair growth, which is in clinical phase 2, and the other one is diabetes, which is in early phase development. And they are actually multi-billion-dollar markets both. Hair growth is expected to reach $6 billion in 5 years from now, and diabetes is tenfold that also in 5 years. So you can understand these are major important markets for us. There are high unmet need in hair growth. Normally you think about older men losing their hair, but actually very common that women also lose hair, and that can be very traumatic. The problem today is that there are few treatment alternatives available for hair growth or inducing hair growth or preventing loss of hair growth. Only 2 pharmaceutical products, and they are old and they suffer from low efficacy, low response rates, and also some adverse events. There are actually very few pipeline drugs in development internationally, which is good for us. And we have taken this project to clinical phase 2A with injection, as I will describe soon for you. And we have shown also that we have no safety issues with the project. We have recently developed a topical formulation, which is very important for us because we have done this with injections, which is not so convenient for people to treat themselves. So with this new topical formulation, we expect this to be very convenient and easy to use. For the diabetes projects, we are not targeting sort of insulin release only. We are targeting the more important diabetic complications. And many people suffer from complications, both those having type 1 diabetes or those having type 2 diabetes. So this is a very important field where we also have shown that we can protect the beta cells from becoming sort of sick. Our research is focused on our own proteins in the bodies, where we develop peptides from these. A peptide is a small fragment of a protein. And we are a very small company. We have very fast, cost-effective development. So just to show you what will happen with these 2 markets in 5 years. They will expand, and for the hair growth, it will be almost $6 billion in 2024. And for the type 2 diabetes market, we will have almost $60 billion. So this is huge. And many people suffer from hair loss problems, both males and also females. And many people suffer from diabetes. And you can see also many people die from diabetes complications, which is very sad. So just to give you a little bit flavor or the background to our project, they seem to be very different, but they are actually connected in that they have the background of either losing hair or having diabetes is an impaired tissue repair. So if you have biological stress, you have inflammation, you have metabolic disease, or potentially also an autoimmune disease, all this leads to an impaired tissue repair mechanisms. And losing hair is one, diabetes is another, and there are also other multiple conditions you can have with this. So for example, how can hair and diabetes, how does those 2 indications relate to each other? So for example, when the hair follicle grows, it grows into different stages, so-called the hair cycle. It needs insulin to be able to grow and generate a hair. So if you have lack of insulin, the hair growth stops. So hair loss can actually be an early sign of diabetes or early stage of diabetes. So this is just one example. There are other examples as well. So they are not too far away as one normally could think about. The two projects we have, the hair growth is an advanced stage. We are now advancing towards the next clinical trial. It will be a phase 2A study with our new topical formulation starting year end. So before that, we have a scientific advice going on with the German authorities to be able to discuss exactly what we are going to do. We know exactly what we're going to do. We are going to do a short tox study to bridge our injection studies to the topical. We need to do a topical local irritation study to just confirm the safety. And then we need to produce the clinical trial material before we can start the clinical trial. So we accept this to start around the year end. And mid-autumn 2020, we expect to have the readout data from this proof of concept study. When that is finally done, when we have good data, we will partner. The other project is an early stage project, as you can imagine. So now we are running multiple in vivo, in vitro studies, looking at diabetes and diabetes complications, how these peptides work. And this is important to generate a good preclinical package before we approach big pharma. And we intend to do so. We have discussions ongoing already to know exactly what they prefer and what they would like to have. But it's very important for us to generate a good preclinical package, because in diabetes, the partnering is done earlier, preferably before clinical stage, at least phase 2. So as I said, we are working with peptide drugs that comes from ourselves. So we are looking at our body and looking at proteins from our body, and we generate peptides that can be potentially effective in various conditions, especially the tissue repair mechanisms. They all are considered to be safe. Today, with the new technology, they are easy to manufacture and very cost-effective. They are also very potent. That means you only need to administer small amounts of them in the body. And all in all, as it is a peptide coming from our own, the development pathway is relatively fast. And it's also a little bit less complicated than if you compare to a small molecule. So our hair project, where are we at the moment? So hair loss is affecting millions of people every year, not only males, but also females. And you can imagine a young boy or even a female, how traumatic this could be. There's actually also people are committing suicide because of this. So this is quite important for many, many people. And this could also be culturally dependent, because you, for example, in Asia, if you lose your hair, you also lose your face, sort of. So this is really important. And today's treatment options are very, very few. You only have 2 pharmaceutical drugs, and they are actually was originally developed for something else. And you do not have any help or assistance from the general practitioner today. You are left alone with no options. So they are old drugs. They have lost the patent protection. They are generic competition. Many companies are producing and selling these type of drugs. And there are very few of these in the pipeline. So low competition. And what they are, the first one is finasteride. It's a tablet. It was originally developed for prostatic cancer, only allowed for men. It's a prescription drug. The other one is minoxidil. It was a blood pressure drug, and it's now available over the counter, so anyone can buy it on the pharmacy. And it's indicated both for males and females. But they all have limited effect, low number of responders, and also some nasty side effects. And I think particularly the few treatment options for females is very important to think about. Because our peptide, we aim to develop this both for males and females. So far, we have shown in over 100 subjects or patients that we do not have any side effects. We have signs of clinical effect despite injections and very few times administrations. We have now a convenient formulation developed that allows people to treat this with this product at home every day. And again, this is a novel peptide with a unique mode of action. So this can be a first-in-class product. So if we look on the effect, what is previously published, you see in the top row, there's a study of minoxidil, 2 times daily applications for 6 months, gave rise to 7 hairs. And if you continue that treatment for an additional 6 months, up to 12 months, you see that the effect was declining. Only 4 hairs was observed. And finasteride, that trial was 11 months long, and the effect was 7 hairs per square centimeter. In our recent study on the bottom, we had only 3 times injections for 3 months with the same effect level, 7 hairs per square centimeter. So minoxidil is 5 times higher dosage. So if we can increase our doses with the convenient topical applications, we hope that the effect can be even better. So this is the development pathway. We know exactly what to do now the coming months. We have the scientific advice meeting. We are going to do the tox studies, a small, uncomplicated tox study to bridge between the injection to the topical application, produce the clinical trial material that the patient's going to use, and then start the study at the end of the year. This will be a 3 months study. Hopefully, we can convince the authorities to allow a 4 months duration, but that we will have to wait and see. But this study will use the topical formulation. It will be daily applications. The patients will use it at home every day. So we are particularly proud of having being able to develop this topical formulation, because the key issue here is to have the peptide stable, to have good skin penetration, so the peptide goes across skin and is taking up in the skin tissue, and it goes then to the hair follicles and activate the hair follicles. So this is very good, and the data from our animal study shows the blue line is minoxidil 2 times a day on these mice, gave rise to hair, and the green is our topical formulation once daily only, and we are identical. And we have room for increasing the concentration of our peptide in this formulation, so we could potentially even increase the effect. So this is very, very good for us. The patent application was recently filed, and that gives us 7 to 8 years more patent protection up to 2040, should the patent be approved. So that's great. So if we switch to the diabetes indication, here it is a little bit different compared to the hair product, because here are only a number of big companies. The hair field is represented by a number of smaller companies, or if you compare on a global level. So here we only have maybe 10 or 12 different companies that are focusing on diabetes, and the market is huge. The problem today with diabetes is that many people are suffering from diabetes complications. You can keep the blood sugar level under control, but still, despite the good treatment options, it is variable and it causes a lot of complications. For example, cardiovascular disease, liver disease, or even hard-to-heal wounds on the feet, leading to amputations. So it is really, really difficult. So we aim to control blood glucose levels, but the important thing here that the important factor for our peptide is that distinguishes us from many other products is that we target the complications. So we can potentially prevent or decrease cardiovascular disease problems like plaque formation in the blood vessels. We can improve the beta cell functionality by protecting them so they can respond to high level of blood glucose and release insulin. The inflammation that is present normally in diabetes patients, hopefully we can reduce that, and also protect the problems you normally have with the liver. So here's a slide showing you the distribution of our peptide after subcutaneous injection. So the peptide has been administered on the back of the animal, and it is taking up in the pancreas. So the more black, the more peptide. And if you look on the right-hand side, you see a Langerhans islet in the pancreas. The Langerhans islands are those small islands where the beta cells reside and release insulin. So the red is our peptide, it binds to the beta cells. So the peptide actually has the capability to go to the pancreas, go to the beta cells and protect them. And if you expose beta cells for a long time in high glucose levels, it is toxic. So the black bar actually shows the effect of high levels of glucose. The white bar is the control. So you can see that the ability to release insulin has decreased a lot with high glucose. So the beta cells, they are sick. And if we add our peptide, and you see that we have a number of different peptides, we can actually restore this and even improve the functionality of the beta cell. And you see also one GLP-1 molecule, and we are actually better than that. So this is very, very interesting for us, which is probably a unique function and also a first-in-class drug, potentially. So the benefits we have with our product, that we are affecting all the complications, not only controlling blood glucose levels, but also affecting the diabetes complications that many patients suffer from. And we have some favorable things also. It's a small, uncomplicated peptide, easy to manufacture, quite low cost of goods. It's not immunogenic, and it is first in class. But it also allows for combination therapies, which some of the other competitors doesn't do. So it's an interesting development pathway we have in front of us. We know exactly what to do here too. We are now running a lot of in vitro studies for looking at how these peptides work in both type 1 and type 2 diabetes models. We're looking for achieving information how this peptide works on a more, let's say, detailed level, what is called mode of action studies, especially on the beta cell protection, but also looking for how this interacts with the cells on receptor levels and also the intracellular signaling pathways. So we are part of a big network that actually financed a postdoc. A postdoc is a person after disputation, after doctoral studies, that's going to expand the research. So we have one person now soon, just in a couple of days. This has finally been completed, the recruitment. And that person will work on these very important issues that the potential partner and the authorities requires before we can go into partnering. And then we have the usual development pathway. So this is the big consortia we have, and you have a number of big companies as well. So we are part of this, giving access to a huge number of academic researchers, access to models and techniques, and we also have a very experienced scientific advisory boards underway. And the professor we are working with here in this have also received external grants, 1.4 million Danish crowns, which is about 2 million Swedish crowns, for directed studies on our peptide class. So with that, I'll leave you with 2 projects, first-in-class projects in hair growth and in diabetes, a unique market, and we have, if successful, a future opportunity with multiple indications in the tissue repair system. And we have, of course, a strong IP as well. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Jan. Very interesting presentation. Yeah, strong IP protection just got stronger today.
Yes.
We saw the news today about the new patent.
Yeah.
So what are the biggest benefits of going now further into the topical formulation and showing good results there?
Yeah, so first of all, the topical formulation is not only important for the hair project, but it can also form a basis of a formulation technology that can be applied for other peptides, because peptides are notoriously difficult to formulate in a stable formulation that you can apply on skin. So it's a two-way opportunity for the hair growth. Yes, we now can advance into the clinical development with a product that is easy to apply for patients on a daily basis at home. And then next step, a business opportunity for offering this peptide, or no, not peptide, formulation technology for other peptides to other companies.
Okay, so that opens up a whole new area, or a whole new business area for you then.
Yes.
Can you say anything about the potential of that?
It's huge.
It's huge.
There are only 2 peptides on the market in a topical product today.
Okay.
And there are hundreds of them in development. So if we are successful, that's
going to be good.
That's going to be really good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Having then seen the results that you have so far in the hair growth project, you were actually in a conference recently,
yes,
presenting. What's the interest like for at this point?
I mean, as I said, there are only 2 products, 2 kind of drugs on the market. So it's a really interesting field to be in because the market need is huge. The conference I attended to last week was the biggest conference for us, the World Hair Conference. 900 participants from 70 countries, and it was very clinically oriented this time. It usually is more like a scientific conference, so it's interesting. The response is quite interesting because all the researchers, they need more tools to help people. So they are very positive, and again, unlike many other indications, if you're going to do clinical trials in hair loss, there are thousands of volunteers. So it's really, really easy to do clinical trials.
Yeah, we actually got people contacting BioStock asking for if it was possible to enter your clinical trial. So
yes.
I believe you in that. So you have a strategy that's focused on partnering both of your projects, main projects. What do you think at this point is indicate that you will succeed?
Well, first of all, the proof of concept in our hair project needs to be completed before we can partner. We don't want to partner before that, and that's due to that the value of the product is so much higher if we can succeed with the topical product. For the diabetes project, we would like to partner as early as possible, but again, we don't want to partner too early because the value of the project will be limited. So we are balancing this. So we have lined up companies in both fields, and we are having continuous discussions with them in order for us to increase the shareholder value as much as possible. And to secure that, we can actually partner. So the clinical trial, for example, in the hair growth, needs to be in line what potential partners want also.
And in the diabetes project, you are part of a very strong network there with lots of big players, and one can only imagine that they're keeping very close attention to what's happening in your project then. So I guess you have sort of everything lined up for you there if it all goes well.
Yeah, I mean it's data driven at this point. So if our preclinical package is good, then I'm very optimistic. But yeah, it's data driven, so we need to look at the data, of course.
Yeah.
But so far so good. We have generated a lot of interest.
Yeah, I think we have time for maybe a couple of questions. Are there any questions from the audience? Yeah.
In the hair project, are you restarting the hair cycle, or are you changing from finer hair to coarser hair?
A very good question. Hair growth takes time. So what we have seen in the previous clinical study, that we have increased the number of hairs in the growth phase. So potentially we are starting from a resting hair follicle to a growing hair follicle. So that we have seen. We have also seen that the number of hairs in the resting phase has decreased. So the ratio between the two has increased dramatically. But again, 3 months is a little bit short time period to say anything definitive about the finer hairs, because they need time to redevelop from the finer hairs to a more coarser hair. So there we need longer studies before we can say any definite answer on that. But they're really good questions.
Anyone else? Yes?
What is your financial situation?
Yeah, our financial situation at the moment is relatively good. We, about a month ago, 2 months ago, completed a share subscription option, and the company was successful in achieving 100% of that, meaning 15.3 million Swedish crowns.
How long will that sustain your?
Well, of course, I mean, this business is expensive, so it will not be sufficient for running all the 2 projects until the end of that.
No, of course. And having them run these parallel projects, or running these parallel projects as a small virtual company, what do you think is the key to success so far for you?
I think it's two things. We have shown that we are able to take a project from early stage to clinical stage. That's one. We know what to do, we know how to do it, and we know with whom to do it. The other thing is that we have already from the start being in contact with potential partners. So we are not developing a project that nobody wants. It's just a matter of reaching the level where the interest is highest and the best. So that would be probably the biggest challenge in having endurance to develop the project until it's ready for partnering.
Well, the importance of starting your partnering activities at an early stage we will actually address later in this program today, because we have something that new that we call a Deal Maker Forum, where we will talk to a couple of companies who have done that trip. So Jan, thank you very much for today. Very interesting. Sure you will be able to get some questions in the break. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.